So there's a moment that happens quietly in a lot of small businesses. Content goes out, the message is thoughtful, the intention is really good, and then nothing really happens. It's not because the work was bad, it's not because the effort was missing. It just doesn't land in the way that it was meant to land. And does your marketing feel like it's disconnected? I want to talk about why more content isn't fixing your marketing and what's really going on underneath the surface when people scroll past, they tune out, or they just don't engage. The problem isn't effort, it's clarity. So, in this episode here today, I want us to slow down for a moment, look at the messages, and run them through one simple filter that changes how your marketing feels to the people on the other side. So, when you're already doing what you're already doing actually connects with them. So if you guys are ready to get started, I am ready to dive in here. So here we go.
Dark gaze, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling sad, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. With our words strong, the vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right. Well, welcome back to Small Business Saturdays. If we've not met yet, my name's Aaron Montgomery, and I'm really glad that you're here because this show really exists for small business owners who care deeply about what they are building and, how we dig out of holes together, how we rise up together, how we thrive together. And my whole goal is that we don't burn ourselves out trying to do this, right? So my goal is not to give you more things to do each week. It's to help you think more clearly about the things that you're already doing. Every episode follows a very simple plan that all comes, I have moved my book, and that all comes out of the book here. What is the first stage is to plant, right? It's to really slow things down just enough to notice what might be running in the background, right? The thoughts, the assumptions, the habits that are quietly shaping how we show up. And then we slide into the prepare phase. And this is where we look at what it is that's actually happening and then give it a little bit of structure, language, framework, whatever you want to call it, so we can move forward without overcomplicating things. And then finally, we'll pollinate. And that's where you lead with one clear action. And in Small Business Saturdays, that's one clear action you can take this week, not 10, just one. What's the steps? So pollinate's really the action phase. So today, our conversation is about why more content might not be fixing your marketing. And before we talk about tactics and trends and tools, we need to start in the right place. And so let's begin in that plant phase. And as we do that, I want to say good morning to, or good afternoon to Mr. Chuck Peterson. Chuck, good to see you. And Craig said, I just remembered where I should be. So great to have you along here this morning. If you guys will share this with your community out there, appreciate that. But marketing frustration doesn't start with what we post, right? It starts with what we assume about what we're posting. And there's a belief running quietly in a lot of small businesses, and it might sound a little something like this. If I just show up more, it will start working, right? So we then end up posting more. We try to send more emails. We put in more effort. And then when the results don't change for us, the frustration grows. And not because what we're doing is wrong, but because it feels disconnected from the outcomes that we're hoping for. But here's what's actually happening, right? And this was a hard thing for me to hear, and so hopefully it's not as difficult for you. But it hurt a little bit when I understood this. The human brain is constantly asking one primary question when it sees a message and offer, when data is coming in, right? And that first filter that all of this data, all these thoughts come in as is this safe and relevant to me? Meaning, is this going to keep me safe, right? That's what my subconscious is meant to do. Keep me safe and preserve my energy, because part of keeping us safe is to make sure we have enough energy to run away from danger. So it needs to be relevant to me, so it's worth giving some of our brain power to. And this is not something that happens consciously that we can control. This is an automatic thing. This is completely out of our direct conscious control. And so what happens is it goes to that filter, and if the message is clear, then our brain will relax and it will accept it, and it'll stay there, right? It knows where it fits into the grand scheme of our life, and it knows what to do next. But when a message is unclear, even slightly, then the brain hesitates. Then the brain goes, oh, hold on a second. That could be a threat. That's dangerous, right? And it's not because your brain's judging the message it's reading or the business it's coming from. It's because it's conserving energy. The brain doesn't like uncertainty. And so uncertainty feels like work. It feels like something that we have to prove to our brain that it's worth putting in the effort. So uncertainty and then the work, that feels like a risk. So when our posts try to say too much, we try to help everyone, or sound like what we think a business should be, right? The brain has to fill in the gaps. And when the brain fills in the gaps, it usually does not do it generously, right? We have a negativity bias, again, a safety mechanism that's built into our human psyche. And so when it's uncertain, the safety mechanism says, nope, scroll, keep going, move on. It's going to look for safer messages that are more clear. And those messages are the ones that don't get rejected. Those messages are the ones where people stay and engage and react, right? And the whole reason that that's happening, again, is not us judging, right? Like, it's not somebody going, well, you aren't good enough for me to stop and listen. It's just there's no clarity there. And so the person seeing the message on the other side is just going into that self-protection mode. And the other side of this is, I know most unclear messaging is not intentional, right? It comes from our natural instinct for a lot of us small business owners to want to be people pleasers, right? We want to try to be helpful. We want to say the right thing to everyone at once, right? We want to make everybody happy. But the result is actually the opposite of connection. So if your marketing isn't connecting, it's not often actually a visibility issue. It's a clarity signal. And once we stop blaming the effort and start paying attention to how the brains receive the message, then something can start to shift for us. And so the goal here in the plant phase is to stop being about more, right? And actually become clearer. Clarity isn't about saying more. It's about saying what matters in a way the human brain can quickly understand and trust. And once you understand that the brain is deciding safety and relevance before it ever decides interest, the next step for you can become a lot more practical. And so we need to look at a way our messages, right? How can we filter them before we send them and ask, is this easy for my intended target's brains to receive? So we don't have to overhaul everything. We just need to bring a little structure to what you're already doing. And that moves us into the prepare phase. And so as we slide into that, I want to say hello, good morning, or good afternoon, I guess, at this point, right? Yep, good afternoon to Angie. Hello, thanks for being here. All right, so we're going to prepare. And I want you guys to think about that, right? Those of you that tuned in live right now, or if you're listening to this on the replay, be honest with yourself. Are you trying to be all things to everyone, and so therefore trying to be clear to everyone all at once? Or are you having a direct conversation with the person that you want to have that with? And then at that point, right, once we're honest with that, now we can understand the fact that what we can do next is very practical for us. How do we remove that unnecessary friction, that uncertainty, that lack of clarity before we hit publish? And if you're anything like me, this might be where you originally were like, I'm just going to jump straight to the tactics, right? Post here, say this, use this format. But none of that works if the brain never feels oriented in the first place. So I think before we start sending messages, posting on social media, trying to reach out to our customers, I think a lot of times we ask, well, is this clever, or will this perform? But as always on Small Business Saturday and anything we do here at our Success Group, I want you to think about an uncommon mindset, an uncommon way to think about this, and ask yourself first, is this easy to receive? If you are the person receiving this, would it land for you? Would you understand it quickly and easily and clearly? And so to do that, right, is this easy to receive? Well, I want to give you a filter. And you can run everything through it, the posts, the emails, the captions, even your short messages, your texts to people. And there's just 4 simple parts to this. The first is the reason. Why does this message exist right now? What prompted it, right? The brain wants orientation before it can do anything. So one short line of reason tells the reader, you're not missing anything. This makes sense. All right. And we'll talk about this in the pollinate section of how to make that work. But that first thing is reason. What's the reason? Can somebody go, oh, this is what they're saying and why, right? Second is direction, right? The brain wants to be told what to do, right? Because it wants to know, okay, what clearly are you asking of me before I say yes? And so what do you want them to understand? What do you want them to do? What do you want them to walk away with? If the direction isn't obvious, the brain will definitely hesitate. And again, it has nothing to do with disagreement or judgment or anything like that, but it's because it doesn't know where to place the message, where to file it, where to categorize this incoming data. And then clarity here was really going to remove all that mental effort. So first is reason, second is direction, and then third is partnership. Right? Does the message feel like an invitation or a push? The brain is wired to resist pressure, right? It's why reverse psychology sometimes works on kids, right? Like, oh, okay, well, they're going to go for the opposite of what they're being pushed into. But it relaxes, our brains relax when it senses a choice, right? We could pick yes or no. Okay. So language in your message has to invite rather than demand. And when doing so, that keeps the door open instead of triggering resistance. And then the fourth component is compassion. Does this message acknowledge the human on the other side, right? And this is, I think, the hardest part in the digital world we live in. We're doing social media. I'm typing on a computer. I'm staring into a camera here that is not a tangible thing, right? I actually have a note on the bottom of my camera that's just a little face. One of my bad drawings here. I'll show you right here, right? And that little face right there reminds me that there's a human on the other side of this. And this is not about being soft. It's about showing that you've got compassion, that you're a safe message to listen to. And so that could look like a small moment of appreciation or encouragement or just humanity signals, right? That you're somebody that they can trust because you're a human on the other side of this as well. And that trust will move forward your message faster than any tactic or scare tactic ever will, right? So when those 4 things are present, when your reason, your direction, the partnership, and the compassion, when those things are present, the brain doesn't have to work as hard. And when the brain doesn't have to work as hard, people stay. And here's the important part. You don't need to add more content to do this. You usually need to actually remove content, make it smaller, make it shorter, right? Often that means saying less, but saying it more clearly, more directly. And once you have a way to look at your messages differently, the next step isn't to overhaul everything. It's to practice. It's to let this turn into something that you can actually use right away. And here's a simple, practical way to apply what we talked about without creating more work. And that moves us perfectly into the pollinate phase. I'm just going to give you 4 simple steps. This is going to be a nice, short and sweet broadcast today, which is even better, right? So less is more, what we just talked about. But step 1, choose one existing message, whatever that is, right? Was it the last social media post you had, an email offer, or a video that you shared with some business advice, right? If you did a Small Business Saturday, maybe you can look at that. Even just a short message you had directly to one customer. Did it connect the way that you hoped, right? So that's step one. Just choose a message and ask that question. Did it connect the way you hoped? Step two, run it through this RDPC that we just talked about, right? Reason, direction, partnership, compassion. And read the message with that in mind. By reading the message, ask these 4 questions, just one at a time here. The reason, why does this message exist right now? Is the reason obvious to someone seeing it for the first time? What is the one thing I want someone to understand or do? Is that clear without rereading it? Right? That, I think a lot of times that's the hardest one right there, is the direction. What's the one because we don't want to be too pushy, right? But we're going to get to that. So this is where you do want to be direct. Direction starts with direct and being clear. So the fact of the matter is, direct is not a rude thing. It's not a mean thing. It's not a not compassionate thing. Actually, being direct is very compassionate, because you're not beating around the bush with this person. You're saying, hey, here you go. This is what I've got for you. I'm laying myself out there. This is the direction that I intend, right? And if you don't agree with that, that's fine. That's where then partnership and compassion comes in, right? And so then you ask the next question. Does this sound like an invitation or a push? Is there room in there for choice, right? And this is where now you can turn back on your people pleaser side and say, okay, now I know I'm being direct here, but am I saying that this is the only choice? Or am I saying, I want to partner with you? Here's directly what I'm asking. But this is a partnership. So I'm open, right? I have a direction. I'm very clear, but I'm also very open to a partnership. And then finally, does this message acknowledge the human on the other side? Like, here's a good way to kind of filter this. Let's say you're having a really challenging day, right? You're frustrated, you're short, right? Because you're frustrated, and somebody says this to you. Would you feel respected receiving this on a busy or a hard day? Right? And if that's a no, then it's time to update the compassion component of the message, right? And so that's the second step. Just filter it through those 4 things: your reason, direction, partnership, and compassion. And then step 3, rewrite it for clarity, not cleverness, right? Rewrite the message using the RDPC as your guide. Don't make it longer. In fact, don't make it fancier. Your goal is to simply remove confusion. Most of the time, clarity comes from saying less. And so you might find that just reducing some of what you're sharing will be very helpful, right? And this is a great episode for me. I understand this. So I'm definitely speaking in the mirror the whole way here. And I'm learning and I'm growing. And I hope you guys are too. Right. And then after you rewrite it, here's the sanity check, right? The fourth and final step here is just read the new version out loud, right? When we read it out loud, what happens there is we kind of separate from here and get it out into the world. And that is really an interesting, like when we have to use the words out loud, right? You don't have to say it in public. You could do it in the mirror or whatever. Excuse me. If it feels easier to say, it will be easier to receive, right? And this is how you know the message is doing less work and getting a same or better result, is because you've done that sanity check and it's more clear. And then one more thing before we wrap up here. And again, I said this is going to be nice and short and sweet today, because we want to be simple. We want to be direct. We want to be clear, but I also want to have compassion and partnership here. Is if you're on my email list, right? If we've partnered in that way, each week I do a wrap up of what we've talked about here on Small Business Saturdays, and the blog that I put out every Monday is also on the same theme. And so on Wednesdays, I send out an email follow up to everybody, giving them a link to the Small Business Saturday episode, also the link to the blog, kind of summarizing a few things. And one thing I've been including for the last several months is a simple AI prompt that is tied into that theme that happens on SBS here and the blog that goes out on Monday. And so that prompt is not there to replace your thinking or to make, right? We still need to take all this in as a human, right? We're putting the human on the other side here. But by using AI, it gives us another perspective, right? It's a support piece for us. And so the AI prompt that I'm going to share on Wednesday is going to walk you through how to take one of your messages and ask AI to help you clarify it using this RDPC, the reason, direction, partnership, and compassion lens. And so make sure that you're on my email list. And again, the prompt here is designed to help you see what you might be unclear about, where pressure might be sneaking in, and how to improve the message without losing your voice. So if you're not on the email list yet, you want to go over to oursuccessgroup.com/empower. I'm going to try to be very clear about that. I'm going to post it in the chats here that are happening live right now. And I will also pop it up on screen for just a moment here. oursuccessgroup.com/empower and join the list. There's just put your email on there. Some of you might get it and you don't read it, right? And that's okay too. Now you know, right? There's gold in there that you might want to take a look at. I personally use these AIs each week myself, and have had huge insight come out of them. So I just want to make sure that that's out there and clear for you. And I'd love to keep this conversation going inside the Entrepreneur Success Hub Facebook group in about an hour or so, give or take, right? I'm going to try to do it sooner, but I plan to finish this episode live and then see what came out of it, see what the conversations were that we were having, or any new thoughts that showed up for me. And I'm going to post something about it in the Facebook group over at the Entrepreneur Success Hub Facebook group. And you can find that right there at osg.link/group. And so you can share anything that you would like. Maybe share the message you revisited and what you noticed when you ran it through the filter to get more feedback and perspective. Maybe ask people to check out your posts and see if they find it inviting or pushy, right? This is not about fixing. It's not about judging. It's just awareness. And when we show up in communities like the Entrepreneur Success Hub and we actually participate, great things happen, right? We learn that it's not so scary, that there are good people out there in the world. And so if you're watching live or on the replay, just come join us over in the group, osg.link/group, and jump in to this thread, any other thread, or start your own thread, right? This is not my group. It's not anybody's group. It's the community's group. And so there's no wrong way to do it. The only thing that we ask of people is that you give more than you take. Right. And so if your goal is just come in the group and try to sell us something, right? The first time I'll say, hey, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Give us some more value first before we can decide whether we know, like, and trust you. And we want to use your services. Right. And so if you're providing more than you take, then that's the space for you. All right. So you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be willing to jump in to the conversations. So again, do that at osg.link/group. And so nice and short and sweet today. I saw you jump in here, Chandler. Howdy ho, Ranger Joe. Howdy ho, Ranger Joe. All right, I like that. Thank you, Chandler, for being here. So I hope you guys got something out of this today. Again, the idea here was to be nice and short and sweet and clear. And so I hope that was very clear for you. I believe it was. I put it through all the filters, so we'll see how it lands here. You guys tell me. And next week, the goal is to take and build on this, right? Like, if I don't know if you guys have noticed this year, I've tried to be very, very intentional that each week builds on the next, right? And each week we try to build on what we talked about the last week. Sometimes they directly tie together. Sometimes it's just kind of like, we can enhance what we were working on before. But once we see this clarity in that is missing in our messaging, the next question, at least in my brain, went to, well, what do I work on first? Right. So next Saturday, we're going to kind of unpack a little bit some ways that I've learned to prioritize our business challenges and talk about how to stop reacting to everything and start working on the right things in the right order. So until then, just remember that clarity builds trust and trust builds connection. And I wonder how I can make mine a service. Is that a Chat GPT thing or what you've got going there, Chandler? So, just as this final reminder, guys, connection is what we're after, right? And I think we sometimes forget about that, right? We think about the transaction, we think about sales, but the reality is those things, transactions, sales, partnerships, they come out of connection, and we can't skip the connection part, right? But without clarity, we can't have connection. And that connection then starts to build trust. And that's going to be where our sales come from, where our business grows from, where our partnerships grow from. And really that connection is what turns marketing into relationships, right? So I'm really glad that you guys popped in. Hopefully you got a ton out of this today. And I know I did putting it together. So I'm excited to hear what you took from this over in the group or here in the comments later on if you're watching the replay. And anyhow, I'm just really glad that you were here, and I will see you over in the group later on today and throughout the week. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next Saturday.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we grew